Hi everybody, this is day one of the Advent Calendar 2014 series. We are making a watercolor painting today that we will use on later stuff. To start off, I'm taping down my watercolor paper to a non-porous surface with some painter's tape. And just to let you know, while I do that, all of the supplies that I'm using will be linked down below in the descriptions, and there will also be details about the material and photos and stuff on the according blog post. So I'm making sure that I have the same width on the border around the tiny piece. I'm having a piece here that is quite tiny. It's a 3.2 by 4.1 inches and 95 pounds strong watercolor paper. I'm watering the whole surface, and I am using light yellow lemon and bring it in from below, fading it out to the top. Once that's dried off and cooled down a tiny bit, I'm going in with the same yellow but with less water, and I did not water down the background again, and I am outlining the leaves of a holly berry. So we're trying a holly berry painting today. And I've used quite the Rolls Royce of the watercolors that are available in my country. They are highly pigmented, and they keep the vibrance of the color even when everything is dried. I'm using a cat tongue size 2 brush for the outline, and I'm bringing in the color just a tiny bit to not have any strong segments in the holly berry leaves. Just to give all of the European people a quick translation of the paper size, this is an 8 by 10.5 centimeter, 200 grams per square meter piece of paper. So it's quite tiny. It's perfect for, well, little paintings that you want to put on some bigger craft stuff, or maybe have a tiny photo frame that you want to have those paintings in and have several hanging next to each other. I'm going for 4 leaves of the holly berry. Again, with the first leaf, I'm outlining them and pulling the color in just a tiny bit. I'm working with only a little bit of water in my brush. The synthetic brushes don't carry as much water as natural hair, which actually works very well with watercolors, because to get the pigment on the brush you have to have enough water. So but you can't have too much, otherwise you will have blotches all over your page. I just brought in the 5th leaf of that branch of holly berries, and then I mixed permanent green into the light yellow lemon color, having a bit more yellow than green to have a medium green shade there, and I'm going into the leaves to create so the veins of the leaves, and just to outline a bit here and there, and plotting where I put what of that branch. Then I went a bit darker, added a bit more permanent green, went over the leaves again, especially in the lower section of the painting, because the light will be coming from the upper right corner of the paper. I'm watering down the medium dark permanent green a bit more to have it run on the surface. When it is too much, I just dab away the color and restart painting. I'm going to the edges of the leaves a bit more because the holly berry leaves actually have only a tiny border of a beige yellowish color. They're mostly dark green. And to achieve that, I did the yellow underpainting and went over it with the permanent green. And you can manipulate the color for as long as you need until it looks just the way you want it to be, to have the right shades and have the light coming from the right angle and keep consistent with the light source during your painting. And you can see that on the upper leaf I'm going in with the same permanent green tone, but I'm only staying in between the veins of the leaf. That will help later on when I go for the shadows of that leaf, because it's the outside of the leaf is pretty much curling up a bit, so in the middle there will be a darker shade, and going in between the veins actually helps later on to not forget where I wanted to have the veins going down. All of those leaves have a different angle on them. That's why I paint all of them a bit different. So now that I did set the dark green color down, I mixed it with a bit of sepia. And I'm going to outline or do the first outline of the shadows. Like I just said, I'm going into the veins of the upper leaf, bringing them out a bit more. The leaf next to it will be very dark because it is partially behind the upper leaf, and it is also partially behind the branch of the holly berry. Also, the berries will be sitting there, so it's the leaf that is quite in shadow. The left-hand leaf, we look at the back of the leaf, not at the front, and we have a slightly have it slightly growing at an angle, so we don't have a frontal look on the leaf. I'm going in with more sepia than green here, having less and less water, but still I'm having a very dark green. I'm not in the pure browns yet. Going for the veins of the middle right leaf now, and that leaf actually has light on the upper part and is in shadow on the lower part, so I will darken that part of the leaf quite a bit. However, I want to make sure that we don't only have a very dark green blob there, but see that it is still a leaf. I'm also connecting that leaf to the branch. There was a space in between that is now closed. And with the lowest leaf on the painting that we only see like 30%, I'm outlining the leaf as well. And as I move forward in the painting, I'm adding more and more sepia brown to the permanent green to make the green darker and darker and darker to work out the shadows of the painting. The wet and wet mixture helps quite a bit to have this painting look as if it was painted in maximum 2 layers, although it's not. But I'm not adding as much water as I would have with a yellow and first green layer. I want to keep the details that I paint in. I want to see the brush strokes in the end. I'm doing that on all of the leaves, one after another, darkening areas down that are definitely in deep shadow, and then I'm drying everything off with my blow dryer before I go in with cadmium red to paint 2 hollow berries. And I did use the bigger cat tongue brush here just to get more color on the brush in one stroke. And I moved back to the number 2 cat tongue for the parts of the berry that connected to the branch, because they are way thinner. I let that dry for just a second before I add a bit of sepia to the cadmium red to create the shadows of the berries. And I'm again putting them on the lower right side because the light is coming from the upper right. I'm also moving the shadows in quite a bit to the left. And I'm making sure that I don't color in the right berry with the brownish mixture to the right part of that berry, because you have to have light next to the darks to distinguish both of those berries. Now I'm going into the leaves again with pure sepia, going for the final shadows, adding more and more to work out those berries, and also the dark, really dark parts of the leaves. You can see that I'm going over the veins of all of the leaves again and again. It's very important with watercolor paintings that you keep contrast and that you overwork the contrast quite a bit, because it fades out once the color is dried. There's not too much fading with this kind of color that I'm using because it's highly pigmented. It is the Fine Arts Schminke watercolor, and that's really highly pigmented. Now I just went in with a bit of Carmine red to do the highlights and a bit more of saturation, red saturation on the berries. And that pretty much ends my painting here. And what I'm going to do with this particular painting, I will show you in tomorrow's video. I hope you enjoyed and got inspired, and I hope I see you tomorrow. Goodbye!